August is when your hostas tell you whether you actually took care of them this summer or whether you were simply keeping them alive. The leaves that looked perfect in May and June can now be showing brown edges, faded color, holes, yellowing, collapsing stems, or that strange streaking pattern that seems to appear out of nowhere. And this is where most gardeners make their biggest hosta mistake. They see a damaged leaf and try to fix the leaf. But in August, the leaf is often telling you about a problem happening somewhere else. The roots may be too dry. The crown may be staying too wet. The plant may be receiving afternoon sun that it didn't receive earlier in the season. Slugs may have been feeding underneath the leaves for weeks. Or, in the most serious cases, you may be looking at a disease or pest problem that cannot be solved by simply giving the plant more water or fertilizer. And there is one thing many gardeners do in August because they think they are helping their hostas that can actually create problems heading into fall. They fertilize. August is not the month to force your hostas into another burst of growth. It is the month to protect the crown, protect the roots, manage moisture, control pests, and prepare the plant for the transition toward dormancy. If you get these things right now, your hostas can finish the season looking strong and enter winter with a healthy root system. If you get them wrong, the damage you see in August may continue all the way into next spring. So today, I'm going to show you exactly what your hostas need in August, what they absolutely do not need, and the one August mistake that can make your hostas weaker instead of stronger. And before we start, drop your US state or USDA growing zone in the comments. August hosta care in northern Minnesota is very different from August hosta care in Georgia or Texas. Tell me where you're growing because your climate changes almost everything we're about to discuss. Let's go. Number 1. Stop treating every brown leaf as a watering problem. This is probably the biggest mistake I see with hostas in late summer. You walk outside in August and notice brown tips or crispy edges. The first thought is usually simple. The plant needs more water. Sometimes that's exactly right, but sometimes it isn't, and giving more water to a hosta that is already sitting in overly wet soil can make the situation considerably worse. August is when you need to look below the surface. Push your finger or a small garden trowel 3 to 4 inches into the soil near, but not directly against, the plant. If the soil is dry at that depth, water deeply. If the soil is consistently wet several inches down, adding more water is not the solution. Hostas prefer consistently moist soil, but consistently moist does not mean permanently saturated. The goal is moisture in the root zone with enough airspace for the roots to function properly. For established hostas in the ground, a deep watering is much more useful than frequent shallow sprinkling. When you water the soil around the root zone. Do not stand there spraying the leaves for 10 minutes. The foliage is not where your plant needs the water most. And in August, there is another reason to keep water off the leaves whenever possible. Nighttime moisture creates a cool, damp environment that can encourage slug activity and certain foliar problems. Morning watering is generally much better than late evening watering because the foliage has time to dry. If your hosta is under a large tree, pay special attention. This is one of the most deceptive situations in August. You may assume your hosta is shaded and therefore protected from drought, but the tree above it may be taking enormous amounts of water from the same soil. The hosta is competing with a mature tree for moisture underground. The result can be a hosta that looks like it is suffering from heat or disease, when the real problem is simply root zone competition. So don't ask only, does my hosta get shade? Ask, is there actually enough moisture reaching the hosta roots? That question can completely change how you care for the plant in August. Number 2. Check what happens between noon and 4 o'clock. Your hosta may have been in the perfect location in May. It may not be in the perfect location anymore. This surprises a lot of gardeners. The amount and angle of sunlight reaching a garden changes throughout the season. Trees change. The sun moves through a different part of the sky, and the shaded corner that looked perfect in spring can receive much stronger afternoon exposure in midsummer. If the leaves have pale, bleached, papery sections on the side facing the strongest light, you may be looking at sun scald rather than a watering problem. And once hosta tissue has been badly scorched, you cannot turn that damaged tissue green again. That leaf has been damaged. Your goal is to prevent the next leaves from suffering the same fate. This is especially important with blue hostas. The blue appearance comes from a waxy coating on the surface of the leaves. Strong sunlight and heat can degrade that coating. Once it is gone, you cannot simply spray something onto the leaf and restore the original blue appearance. The fresh leaves that emerge next season would have the coating again. But the damaged August leaf will not magically become the blue leaf it was in June. Gold and yellow hostas can often tolerate more light than heavily blue varieties, but more sun tolerant does not mean full afternoon sun is always safe. Your garden's climate matters. Your soil moisture matters. The variety matters. And the intensity of the afternoon sun matters. So tomorrow morning, don't just look at your hosta. Look at the plant's position. Stand there around noon. Then look again around 2. Then around 4. Ask yourself where the strongest sunlight is actually hitting the leaves. That simple observation can tell you more than another application of fertilizer ever will. Number 3. Refresh the mulch, but keep it away from the crown. By August, the mulch you applied in spring may look very different. It may have decomposed. It may have compressed. It may have become thin in some areas and piled up in others. And this is the time to correct it. A layer of organic mulch helps moderate soil temperature, reduce moisture loss, and protect the shallow root system from rapid temperature changes. Aim for roughly 2 to 4 inches of mulch around the plant. Shredded leaves, leaf mold, pine needles, or suitable shredded bark can all work depending on your garden. But there is one rule that matters more than the exact material. Do not bury the crown. The crown is the central area where the hosta's leaf stems emerge. That area needs air circulation. When mulch is piled directly against the crown, you create a persistently damp environment right where you do not want one. This is especially dangerous during periods of hot, humid weather. So, when you refresh your mulch, spread it around the plant. Then pull it back from the center. You should be able to clearly see where the crown begins. Think of the mulch as a protective ring around the hosta, not a blanket placed directly over its heart. And don't make another common mistake. Do not suddenly add a huge pile of fresh mulch simply because the old layer has settled. More mulch is not automatically better. Too much can retain excessive moisture, interfere with air movement, and bury the base of the plant. 2 to 4 inches is plenty for most situations. The goal is moderation, cooler roots, more stable moisture, but a dry, open crown. Number 4. August is your last serious warning about slugs. If your hosta leaves look like someone took a hole punch to them overnight, start looking for the culprit. Slug damage usually produces irregular holes with ragged edges, and the frustrating part is that you rarely see the slug doing the damage. You see the evidence the next morning. During the hottest part of the day, slugs hide. They move underneath leaves, beneath boards, under stones, inside dense vegetation, and into cool soil. Then, when temperatures drop and darkness arrives, they come out to feed. August can be especially because the hosta foliage has been providing a huge food source for them all summer. But you don't need to guess. Take a flashlight outside about an hour after sunset. Walk slowly around your hostas. Look underneath the leaves. Look around the crown. Look beneath nearby objects touching the soil. If slugs are active, you may finally see exactly what has been eating your plants. Hand-picking them at night can make a noticeable difference when done consistently. Don't do it once and assume the problem is solved. Check again the next night, and again the night after that. 3 consecutive nights of active removal can be much more useful than a single 5-minute inspection. Also eliminate the hiding places. Remove unnecessary boards, dense debris, piles of leaves, and objects sitting directly on damp soil around your hostas. And avoid creating a permanent wet environment around the plants. Water deeply when the soil needs it. But don't keep the entire planting wet every evening. The objective isn't to make your garden dry. It's to make it appropriately moist rather than continuously wet. And if you see slime trails in the morning, that is another clue. Don't automatically assume holes mean disease. Sometimes the answer is much simpler. Something was eating the plant while you were asleep. Number 5. Don't cut every ugly leaf just because it looks ugly. This one is important. By August, some hosta leaves are going to look tired. That is normal. Older outer leaves may yellow. Some leaves may have cosmetic damage from earlier heat, slugs, wind or sun. Your first instinct may be to grab your pruners and remove everything that doesn't look perfect. Don't. A damaged leaf can still be contributing to the plant. If the majority of the leaf is still green and functioning, there is usually no reason to remove it simply because it has a few brown edges or holes. The plant can continue using the healthy tissue. Instead, focus on leaves that are severely damaged, completely collapsed, diseased, or clearly no longer contributing. And when you do remove a leaf, cut the stem cleanly near the base. Don't rip it out. Don't yank the entire plant. Don't disturb the crown unnecessarily. August is about reducing stress, not creating more of it. There is another reason to avoid excessive cutting. Every green leaf is part of the plant's energy-producing system. The hosta is still using its foliage during the late growing season. You want the plant to finish the season with as much healthy foliage as possible. So don't turn your hosta garden into a haircut competition. A hosta doesn't have to look perfect to be healthy. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is leave a slightly damaged leaf alone. Number 6. Remove finished flower stalks if you haven't already, but don't panic if you left them. If your hostas have finished flowering, August is a good time to look at the flower stalks. Once the flowers have completely finished, you can remove the spent stalks. If you don't want seed development or simply prefer a cleaner appearance, cut the stalk down near where it emerges from the plant. But don't confuse this with cutting back all of the foliage. The flower stalk is one thing, the leaves are another. Do not cut healthy hosta foliage down simply because the flowers are finished. Your leaves are still working. Your plant is still building and maintaining the resources it needs for the remainder of the season. And if your hosta produces attractive flowers that you enjoy, there is no emergency requiring you to remove the stalk immediately. Some gardeners remove flower stalks because they prefer the appearance. Others leave them for pollinators or simply because they like the flowers. The important thing is understanding what you are cutting. Spent flower stalk? Fine to remove. Healthy green leaves? Leave them alone unless there is a specific reason to remove them. This distinction can save you from doing unnecessary damage while trying to make the plant look tidy. Number 7. Stop trying to push August growth with fertilizer. This may be the most important thing in today's video. If your hosta looks smaller than your neighbor's hosta, your first thought might be fertilizer. If the leaves aren't as dark green, fertilizer. If the plant didn't grow as large as you expected, fertilizer. But August is not the time to chase growth simply because the plant isn't meeting your expectations. Established hostas generally do not require constant feeding. If your soil contains good organic matter and you have been maintaining it properly, the plant may already have access to what it needs. And late-season nitrogen can encourage tender new growth when the plant should be transitioning toward the end of its active growing season. That does not mean fertilizer is somehow poison for hostas. It means timing matters. If your hostas need fertilization, the better opportunity is generally earlier in the growing season, rather than trying to force a late August growth spurt. And never assume that more fertilizer equals bigger, healthier hostas. Too much fertilizer can damage roots, encourage excessive soft growth, and create nutrient imbalances. If you are looking at an August hosta and thinking, it isn't big enough, so I need to feed it again, stop. First, ask the more important questions. Is the plant receiving enough moisture? Is the soil healthy? Is the plant getting too much afternoon sun? Are tree roots competing with it? Are slugs destroying the foliage? Is the crown healthy? Those questions come before another handful of fertilizer. And if you have already been feeding your hostas throughout spring and summer, August is not the time to keep increasing the dose simply because you want more leaves. Let the plant finish its season naturally. Now, before you walk away from your hosta garden, there is one final thing you need to know. Some August symptoms are cosmetic, others are warnings, and knowing the difference can save your entire collection. If you see irregular ragged holes appearing overnight, think slugs. If you see bleached, papery areas on the most sun-exposed sections of the leaf, think sun scald. If you see yellow or brown streaks that appear to run between the veins in a distinctive pattern, don't assume it's simply drought. Foliar nematodes can produce characteristic streaking and can spread through contaminated water on foliage. Don't compost suspicious affected leaves. Remove them carefully and dispose of them according to local guidance. And clean tools before moving from a potentially affected plant to another hosta. Then there is Hosta virus X. This can produce unusual mottling, streaking, puckering, distortion, or a watercolor-like appearance in the foliage. The important point is that viral problems are not fixed by fertilizer. They are not fixed by extra water. And you should not simply take cuttings from a suspicious plant and spread the material around your garden. If you strongly suspect a virus, get a reliable identification before propagating the plant. This is why identification comes before treatment. A brown leaf is not a diagnosis. A hole is not a diagnosis. Yellowing is not a diagnosis. Your job in August is to figure out what the plant is actually telling you. And here is your complete August hosta checklist. Check the soil 3 to 4 inches down before watering. Water deeply when the root zone is dry. Water the soil rather than repeatedly wetting the foliage. Check your hostas between noon and 4 for unexpected afternoon sun. Pay special attention to blue varieties. Refresh mulch to roughly 2 to 4 inches. Keep the mulch away from the crown. Inspect for slugs after dark if you see fresh holes. Remove unnecessary hiding places around the plants. Don't cut healthy green leaves just because they have minor cosmetic damage. Remove finished flower stalks if desired, but leave healthy foliage intact. And most importantly, don't use late-season fertilizer simply because you want to force more growth. August is not about making your hostas grow faster. It's about helping them finish strong. The hostas that look slightly tired in August are not necessarily failing. They have already survived spring. They have endured heat. They have produced leaves. They have flowered. They have dealt with insects, weather, and changing sunlight. Your job now is not to demand more from them. Your job is to protect what they have built, because the hosta that enters dormancy with a healthy crown, functioning roots, adequate moisture, and minimal ongoing stress has a much better foundation for next year's growth. So before you do anything to your hostas today, walk outside and look at them carefully. Don't reach for fertilizer. Don't immediately grab the pruners. Don't assume brown means thirsty. Look at the soil. Look at the sunlight. Look underneath the leaves. Look at the crown. And figure out what the plant is actually telling you. If this video helped you understand what your hostas need in August, subscribe to the channel because every week we're breaking down the seasonal mistakes that quietly damage the plants gardeners have spent years growing. And before you leave, tell me 2 things in the comments. What state or USDA zone are you gardening in? And what do your hosta leaves look like right now? Brown edges? Holes? Yellowing? Sun scald? Or are they still looking completely healthy? I read the comments, and your answers help determine which gardening problem we tackle next.